For the loser now will be later to win. For the times they are a changin'. For at times they are a changin'. Except if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. No change is happening, my friends. None. Maybe one. And it's not even like this drastic change, but I think it is the most needed change, as I alluded to last show. If there's one change that happens, it pertains to this quarterback position. But Steelers owner Art Rooney II addressed the media yesterday, talked about the Steelers 2025 direction, what we're going to do at quarterback, what about the coaching changes, all that. And we knew. I guess it was just like we needed to still hear it from the head man. We knew nothing was really going to change here. We weren't moving off of Tomlin. We've known that. But, of course, Tomlin's back. He reiterated that and explained why he wants Coach T back despite some of the lack of playoff success over the last 7-8 years. The the end of the season debacle we experienced this season, going 0-5, getting smoked by the Ravens in the playoffs. Despite all that, he explained he still thinks Tomlin's a good coach. We're going to stick with him. But also, like I said, talked quarterback, talked other coaching changes. We're going to be rocking with the same offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith. Not opposed to that. I've hinted that we could give him a try for a second year. I'm not opposed to that at all. But Terrell Austin looks like he's going to be the DC again for 2025. And that one I don't necessarily agree with. That was part of my plan to get things right for the Steelers, with him not being here, essentially. Us moving on from Terrell Austin and bringing in a DC that is more proven, a guy that has worked his way up the coaching ranks to even become a head coach. Like, that's how good some of these coaches are, like, out there. The guys that were available. That's how good they are at the defensive coordinator spot, that they became head coaches because of it, like a Matt Eberflus, a Robert Saleh. But you snooze, you lose. We played the waiting game, and, Saleh got picked up by the 49ers. Eberflus just got picked up by the Cowboys to be their defensive coordinator. So I don't think it was ever part of the plan for us to move on from Terrell Austin. But I think that would have been the pivot. I think that would have been the solution right there to try to improve this defense, to try to get this defense back to greatness. Because over the years that Terrell Austin's been heading this thing up, it's been okay. It's been good. Let's say it's been good. Almost like how the team has been. It's been good, right? We're above average. But it's not good enough when we play real teams. We keep seeing that time in and time out. So, yeah, nothing. I don't think anything's really, like, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys saw the same interview. You guys saw the same quotes. It looks like it's pretty much going to be status quo. But the one thing, going back to what I said at the beginning, that might change is the quarterback position. And it's not even like that drastic of a change, but I think it is the change that is needed. That's the one that supersedes all the other. Okay, we're not going to fire Terrell Austin. We're not going to change the DC. We're not going to move on from Tomlin. We're not going to do this and that. We're not going to get rid of Pat Myers. Okay, at least make this one change. This is the one that's the priority to me. Get the quarterback right and have it be Justin Fields. That's what the answer needs to be. And there's a chance it's going to be Justin Fields for 2025. There is a chance. Unfortunately, there's also a chance that it's going to be Russell Wilson too. Because Rooney said pretty much we're going to run it back with either Fields or Russ. One of these guys that was on the 2024 roster. But doesn't think we're going to get back both. Says securing a quarterback is the team's priority, and it's his preference to sign either Justin Fields or Russell Wilson this offseason. Rooney says it's unlikely the team brings back both quarterbacks. I wouldn't close the door, but I'd say it's probably unlikely. I think both of them see themselves as starters, and I don't know that they want to share the same job again next year. So I would say most likely we probably don't wind up bringing them both back. Okay, there you have it. There you have it. Again, not really much change across the board with this team. But the little change that might happen is we'll have a different starting quarterback for next year. And even though Fields was on the team for 2024, he'd be the one with the keys. He'd be the one in the driver's seat going into 2025 instead of Russ. Even though it's, again, not this grand change, I think it's the most important one. And that's what the answer's got to be. And obviously, too, it's the most important one because it's the quarterback. The quarterback supersedes everything. I went back, going back to what I was saying a couple of days after that wild card loss. I did make a video that said, like, this is the one thing, the one hope for Tomlin to save his job going forward and to get things right is Justin Fields becomes an elite quarterback, or you get elite quarterback play in here somehow, some way for 2025. And Justin Fields could give you that. There's a chance, and we've talked about that ad nauseum over the last couple of weeks. I've explained my reasoning for it, but like that's the hope right there. That's the chance. So no matter what coaches come back, if Fields is giving you elite play, that could throw a lot of the other concerns, a lot of the other question marks by the wayside. And there's a chance, obviously, with Rooney saying his preference is either Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. It needs to be Justin Fields, though. I don't know what we're holding on to with Russ at this point. I don't even know why it's a real option outside of maybe just us helping our own leverage, us being smart from a business standpoint and keeping all of our options open. If that's the case, I'm fine with it. If it's just us playing the media game here, us playing the leverage game to try to make sure, like, okay, we're keeping our options open. We're making sure we can get the best contract for whatever quarterback. We're trying to play the numbers game, all that stuff. Trying to play the power game. That's the only reason. That's the only way for me to fathom us actually being somewhat interested in Russ right now, or being open about potentially signing Russ for 2025. That's the only reason I could see. That's the only reason it would make sense to me. Because I don't know what we're holding on to Russ for. Like, why that's a legit option. Again, is it? I don't know behind the scenes what they're saying, but obviously from what we're hearing in the media by people who are making big time decisions, it is an option. It is an option. We can only go off of that. Now, again, could it be the power play? Could it be just the leverage maneuver? And they're not that serious about signing Russ? Either way, it's being thrown out there. What are we holding on to? Like, why are we so scared of going with Justin Fields? If you look at both of these quarterbacks last year and their 17 per game average, it's kind of identical. Justin Fields, 3,100 passing. If you took his 6-game starting sample and extrapolated it over 17 games, he would have had 3,100 passing yards, 14 passing touchdowns, 3 picks. Add 654 rushing yards and 14 rushing touchdowns. That's 28 total touchdowns, 3 picks, and almost 4,000 total yards. Had a 4-2 record, 65% completion percentage, 93.3 QB rating, and a 50.8 QBR. Not bad, right? Not bad at all. That 4-2 record over 17 games, that ends up being what? 10-7, 11-6. Exactly what we finished this year with Russ. And Russ's stats, same thing. 3,800 passing yards. This is over 17 games because he didn't play a full season either. Only did, I think he was 10 or 11. But 3,800 passing yards, 25 passing touchdowns, 8 picks, 240 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. So that's a little over 4,000 total yards, just like Fields. Fields I think he was a little bit under, almost 4,000 total yards. 28 touchdowns, 28 total touchdowns. That's exactly the 17-game average for Fields. But more picks. 8 picks for Russ. He had a 6-5 record. That's worse than 4-2. 4-2 is what Fields had whenever he was starting. And in fact, if you want to add the playoff game, that's 6-6 for Russ. 6-6, including the playoffs. 500. 63.7 completion percentage. That's a little bit less than Fields' completion percentage. 95.6 passer rating, a little bit higher than Fields, and a 51.4 QBR. That's 0.6 higher than Fields in terms of QBR. What are we holding on to with Russ, man? What are we holding on to? Russ isn't as mobile. He's pretty reliant on the deep ball. The sideline ball doesn't pass that much over the middle of the field. And my question to you is, how does it get better going forward then? If these are the limitations, these are some of the concerns that we have with Russell Wilson, how is it going to get better with him getting a year older? And it's not just last season either. It's not like last season is this outlier season for Russ over the course of his career. We've been on this pace with Russ over the last 4 seasons, and we've talked about that before. If you look at his Steelers season, you look at his 2 Denver seasons, you look at his last season in Seattle, this is kind of what he's been. Like, he's not prime Russ in Seattle anymore. He's not that playmaker. He's not that top 5 or 6 quarterback. We thought he was when we were sitting at 10-3 in the middle of the season. We thought he was. But really, not just this season. You look at the last 4, he's not trending in the right direction. Or at best, he's just been stagnant at this new stage of his career. And that being stagnant is just, you're pretty much like Kirk Cousins and Tua. You're at that level. And that's not going to cut it here. If you're talking about winning Super Bowls, that's not going to cut it anywhere if you're talking about winning Super Bowls. So we just talked about those limitations, those concerns with Russ. What limitations or concerns do we have with Justin Fields? In terms of his ability, in terms of his talent, in terms of his skill set? None. The only concerns we have is that he doesn't develop completely into playing the quarterback position properly at a really high level. He's not playing winning football at the quarterback position. I mean, that's kind of what we talked about with him in Chicago and how he turned the ball over. His QB rating, his stats would get worse in the 4th quarter. But like, that type of stuff comes with playing time. In terms of like reading the defense, just overall playing that quarterback position well to the highest level, that comes with playing time. And if anything, Fields showed me he can do that. That his Chicago days, we're starting to get behind him because of that 4-2 record he put up in the 6 games, the 65% completion percentage he put up, the 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. He was playing good ball. So it's like, what does that look like over the course of 17 games? We didn't get to find it out in 2024, but we need to find it out in 2025. What are we holding on to with Russ? Fields and Russ just proved this year. Russ, a little bit higher sample size. I'll give him that. But both of those guys proved already what their floor can be, what their average can be in a Steeler uniform. And it's very similar. Pick your choice between Russ and Fields, who had the better season last year. Make your pick. The difference is Fields is 25 and Russ is 36. Fields has no limitations from a talent or skill set standpoint. Russ does. It's like, what are we holding on to, man? Why are we holding on to Russ? Maybe one could argue that in 2025, if you gave Fields the full reins, you gave him a full season, that his floor could be a little bit lower. But that's the beauty of Fields' potential and his ceiling, the upside, all that stuff. It could also very much well get better and get us into that, get the team, get himself into that like elite stratosphere. That's the hope. That's the chance you have with Fields, whereas you don't have that with Russ. So it's not a waste of time. And if it ends up being a losing season, you can at least say you tried, man. With Russ, you're not even trying. I've said it how many times with the Dolphins. Them having Tua as their quarterback, whatever team Kirk Cousins is on, Derek Carr, Jimmy G, a bunch of these guys. It's like you're not even trying to win a Super Bowl. You're not even trying. These guys are gonna get you a certain amount of wins in the regular season, keep you relevant, keep you in the mix, but you're not trying. You're really not trying when push comes to shove. With Russ, you're saying 10-7, good enough. It's good enough. It's not a losing season. We got to stop. We got, not only do we got to stop holding on to Russ here, we got to stop holding on to that. Like we go 9-8, 10-7, like thumbs up, big time accomplishment. I'll admit it's not nothing. There's something to be said for that, but come on, bro. What are we really talking about here? Because the losing season, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. Just ask the Eagles. Just ask the Rams. Not the end of the world. They've been to more Super Bowls. They've been legit contenders over the last 7-8 years. Way more than us. Way more than us. And they had a losing season thrown in the mix there, right? They've moved off, at least the Eagles, moved off a couple head coaches that were quality. Doug Peterson won them a Super Bowl. It wasn't good enough anymore. Had to pivot. I think Chip Kelly, whenever they got off of him, he had a winning record. He's like 26-21. They moved off. It's not good enough. This isn't the way you've been leading this organization. Not good enough. I think he went to the playoffs 2 out of his 3 years. So, like, bro, losing season, not the end of the world. Might be, in fact, it might be the exact thing we need. Because at least then with the Fields that this ain't it. Hell, you could have a losing season with Russ. Who says you can't have a losing season with Russ? Look at how we ended this year. So, like, again, what's the big risk here? What are we holding on to? You got to make a decision. You got to make a decision, man. That's what it's going to come down to. There's going to be risk. You're going to have question marks either way, all this stuff. But where we're at this point with the franchise and what our timeline's been, it's time to take a swing. It is. And Justin Fields is that swing. That's the home run ball you're trying to hit. Because Fields has all the talent, all the intangibles, all the skill, like these other guys that we consider elite. He just got to put it together. And I'll tell you what, though, what he did in 2024, it was a positive sign in the right direction. Positive sign in the right direction. But if we go with Russ, I don't think we have any real answers for the future. Fields, we might, one way or another. Fields, I think, not even we might have an answer one way or another. We're going to have an answer. Russ, we're going to have no real answers. It's time for Fields, man. Get out of the 1970s with this offense. Get into 2025. It's funny, like, with these comments by Rooney, I think Steeler fans, right? We're picking sides. It's almost like a political campaign. Who do you want for the 2025 quarterback? Fields Warren, 2025. That's the QB running back duo. That's what I want. Fields Warren, 2025. Or do people want Russ Najee, 2025? More of the status quo. What are you guys saying? We got a lot of people in the chat, man. What do you guys think of Rooney's comments? What do you think of his comments specifically related to the quarterback position? Bo Flash Steel says, let Russ go. Sign Fields, I get it, but neither are the answer with this OC. That's the thing. We'll find out. We'll find out, at least. Have Fields and Smith rely on each other. Both their jobs on the line with each other. I think that's what you got to do. Because I think there's a case. There's a decent reason in giving Arthur Smith another year. The offense did improve, like, as a whole, it improved. But obviously, we got to see the last 5-6 games. But I do wonder if you gave Smith his preference at quarterback, which is Fields, if it would look different. If Smith would be more open with his offense, more willing to take some risks, more up with the modern times, especially if Tomlin took some of his influence off of it too. So I think that's the case for Arthur Smith going forward. Give him a full year with Fields. And let's see what they could cook up together. Packed out 412 says average shouldn't be the standard. 100%. I like this one. We got Dylan saying Justin lacks confidence at times, but that can be fixed. That goes back to what I was saying in terms of like concerns about each of these quarterbacks going forward. With Russ, it's like a lot of that stuff, it's just who he is, especially now. Like that's his reputation. Not as mobile anymore. Reliant on the deep ball. It's either a layup, as I think it was one of the teams on Hard Knocks said, it's either a layup or it's a 3-pointer with him. Isn't those the exact same things we were complaining about with Kenny Pickett at quarterback with this offense? That it's either he takes the shot on the sideline to Pickens or it's a dump off. Wasn't that the same stuff everyone was complaining about with Pickett? Doesn't pass the ball enough over the middle of the field. Well, this is the exact stuff we're talking about with Russ. And part of that is just due to his size, due to his physical capability. So, like, that's not changing. Whereas Fields, we have no concerns about his physical capabilities, right? It's just about playing the quarterback position. And to your point, Dylan, confidence is a part of that. But that comes with playing. That comes with being more and more familiar with the offense, which if he comes back to be a Steeler, this is going to be his first time, I think, in his career where he's going to be having the same playbook for 2 years in a row. Something to be said for that. And yeah, I think Fields, it seemed like to me he got better and better as this, although I'll put it to you this way. I think he got more and more comfortable as the games went on in his 6 starts. I think he got more and more comfortable. His last like 2 or 3, I don't think it was necessarily as good as his first 3 or 4 games. I would say his last 2 weren't perfect, but that's the other thing, man. Like if we're expecting perfection out of these quarterbacks game in and game out, we're going to be disappointed. Let's not forget in that Cowboys game with Fields, he did lead us down for a game-winning drive. We were up. 4 minutes left. Defense had the opportunity to close the deal. Just don't give up a touchdown. What'd they do with like seconds left on the clock? Gave up a touchdown to Dak Prescott and some randoms out there. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, remember their roster at that point? We didn't know the names of anyone that the Cowboys was putting out there on offense. So the defense, I think part of it's on the defense too. The defense has been sketchy as hell all year. Really has. And it culminated at the end of the season. The offense, I felt like was actually pretty steady through the first half of the season for the first 3 quarters of the season. But then we reverted back to Canada type of stuff. Not putting up 17 points in any of those last 5 games. Stagnant, stale, conservative, all that BS. But yeah, I think you give Fields. I would have been interested last year. I really would have. We got a 6-game sample from Fields. What could it have looked like over 17 games? I thought he was only heating up. I thought he was only warming up. I think he wasn't even scratching the surface of his potential, but he still gave us quality play. We went 4-2, the 10 touchdowns, 1 pick. Like that's nothing to sneeze at. He was playing like at least a top 15 quarterback at the time. If you look at the stats compared to everyone else, those first 6 weeks, he was at least a top 15 quarterback. I probably would have argued top 11, top 12. Manny Meek says Colts game would have been a 3-score blowout if it wasn't for Fields. 100%. 100%. And the reason the offense didn't score in the first half wasn't due to Fields. It was due to Broderick Jones' penalty, Tomlin deciding not to kick a 50-something yard field goal in a dome and instead punting it, and then Pickens fumbling down at like the 10. That's not on Fields. But I think we actually got a pretty clutch drive in before halftime to put some sort of points up on the board to gain some sort of momentum going into that second half. And then, yeah, he cooked. I mean, you look at the overall numbers. I think didn't he have like almost 400 total yards and 3 touchdowns? It's like 3 series in a row. He led the offense to put up points, I think it wasn't even just points. It was touchdowns. 3 in a row, got back in the game, 1-score game. And then Frazier botched up the snap at the end, kind of killed our chance of getting that game-time field goal. Or it was either a game-time field goal, game-winning touchdown. We had a chance, though. We legitimately had a chance. But all that was due to Fields and the offense. T-Need 16 says Fields was 5-1 in his book. That Cowboy loss wasn't on him. I mean, you could also argue, too, the Colts loss wasn't on Fields either. I mean, we could have easily been 6-0 those first 6 games. But coulda, woulda, shoulda. Fields did. I will admit this. Fields did leave the door open for a decision to be made on sticking with him versus going with Russ. I said at the time we should have stuck with Fields at least for 2 more games because then you had the bye after that. I think you would have got a definitive answer on Fields and you could have made the switch at the bye because you had 2 primetime games against the New York teams at home. It's like, all right, let's see how Fields does in these 2 games. If it's not up to snuff, we'll make this switch to Russ. If it is, you're at 6-2 with a guy at 25 years old in his prime that's able to do things with his legs. Obviously got a good arm, cannon for an arm. Let's see what this can be. Let's keep rolling with this. Manny Meeks, Deke, we got to start a dialogue with our defense being better with Fields. Our time of possession was so much better. Yeah, it's a good point. We got an uptick in the passing game with Russ, but we got a downtick in the running game. We were actually able to, even though we didn't put up points every time we touched the ball on offense with Fields, we were able to sustain drives. We were able to keep our defense rested as opposed to what we saw a lot over the last 5 games with Russ at the helm, particularly in these first halves. A lot of 3-and-outs. I don't think you're wrong, Manny Meeks. I think it's something to consider. T-Need 16 says Fields Warren 2025. That's who he's picking for his quarterback running back duo. Fields Warren 2025. Because I think it is. It's like you're either campaigning for one or the other based off Rooney's comments here, right? He said it's either going to be Fields or it's either going to be Russ. So who do you want? It's not going to be both. But hey, even though I don't think Russ should be the quarterback for next season, I don't think he's the answer. Made a Pro Bowl. There you go. Who cares, man? Who cares? So he got in because Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen dropped out. The main 3 Pro Bowl guys was Lamar, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is staying. But how about this? With Russell Wilson getting the nod as the alternate, Drake May is also going as a replacement. Come on, man. Just another reason to not take the Pro Bowl seriously. Drake May. 2,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, 10 picks. He just made the Pro Bowl. At least Russ is more deserving than that. But, like, we all know who the first alternate should have been or really is. It's Patrick Mahomes, but he's in the Super Bowl. So, like, here's what's funny. It's going to go down in history that Russell Wilson and Drake May made a Pro Bowl over Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes didn't make a Pro Bowl in 2024. I actually didn't think initially he was deserving over Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. But if you're talking about the next alternate, it's Patrick Mahomes. Again, Russ deserved it more than Drake May. Like, Drake May shouldn't even be on there. But then it's like you look at the other AFC quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers was out there. Herbert. Bo Nix. CJ Stroud. I think there's a case for Russ against those guys. There is. But I wouldn't be surprised if, like, Herbert or Bo Nix actually got the alternate nod over Russ and, like, turned it down or something. But, like, there's a case because, like, Russ only played in 11 games, so his stats aren't as profound or as gaudy as some of the other dudes because they played in all 17 games. But Rodgers went 5-12. Herbert's stats weren't anything crazy. They were a little bit more of a running team, but I thought he played good. Bo Nix. I mean, I think Russ's stats would have been similar to Bo Nix's if Russ played the 17 games. I just did that whole per 17 game exercise. Stroud. He had a little bit of a down year. So, like, I'm not going to stress about it. Like, you know what I mean? Especially Russ, Steeler, got in the Pro Bowl. Like, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with Russ getting in over all the other guys, for sure. Not a bad thing to have a Steeler make the Pro Bowl. And Isaac Seumalo made it too as an alternate. I think Miles Killebrew got in too with one of the special teams guys dropping out. There's nothing wrong with. I'm not gonna like complain about a Steeler making a Pro Bowl, but I'm not gonna get excited about it either, especially with how this season ended. It's just like, who cares, bro? Like, who cares? Who cares? The Pro Bowl's a joke to begin with. The Pro Bowl's a joke. And this Russ making the Pro Bowl type of thing, it definitely ain't as bad as when Tyler Huntley made it. That's for sure. But is it along the lines of when like Jameis made it that one year? And you're just like, bro, Mac Jones made it the one year too. Drake May making it this year. It's like, it's not as bad as Drake May making it this year. We'll go that far. At least it's more deserving than that. I don't know what class of like Pro Bowl alternate selection this should fall under, because I mean, it's not deserving. I think it's not deserving, but at least it's somewhat deserving. I think you could look back on this and say, okay, all right. But again, Pro Bowl is a joke to begin with. Who cares? Nice to see Russ get in though. Good for him. Good for the Steelers. But back to some of your guys' points in the chats, man. Like, average isn't the goal. Making Pro Bowls isn't the goal. You think Patrick Mahomes gives two craps that he's not in the Pro Bowl right now? Like, that's all you need to know about this Russell Wilson making the Pro Bowl right here. Patrick Mahomes for the year 2024 is not going to get recognized as a Pro Bowler, but Russell Wilson is, and Drake May is. So it's like, okay, whatever. Like, what? It's cool. Russell Wilson goes from 9 Pro Bowls on his career to 10. Looks better for his Hall of Fame resume and everything, but it doesn't really mean anything of substance for the here and now. It doesn't mean anything of substance. All right. I was going to talk some Teryl Austin because that's also some of the comments Rooney discussed coaching. I kind of hinted at that at the beginning of this show. Was going to get into that. I don't think we need to, though. Do we? We know where I stand. I think we should have gotten rid of Teryl Austin. Should have brought in a defensive coordinator that's more accomplished. Let them take over the reins with the play calling. Tomlin become the overseer like he was back when we had Bruce Arians and Dick LeBeau. But that's not happening. That's clearly not happening. The saving grace could be Justin Fields becoming an elite quarterback, though. So we still have a chance to make the right decision there, from my standpoint. We still have the chance. If we go with Russ, bro, I don't know what to say. If we go with Russ, I just laid it all out there for you guys, right? We can't go with Russ. Like, we just can't. We can't. Manny Meek says, Deke, you got to do a Steeler free agent video soon. Who would you keep, let go? That'd be a fire stream. Yeah, maybe this week. Maybe I'll think of something this week. I still got to talk some Jalen Milroe. One of you guys brought that up in a video last week. We're going to talk Jalen Milroe. Yeah, we don't got to talk about this Teryl Austin stuff tomorrow. I don't think I got to reiterate anything there. So yeah, that might be a thing. Maybe that's a Thursday thing. Free agent video. Who should we keep? Who should we let go? We're talking about the in-house guys. You're talking about just guys on the Steelers roster. Yeah, that'd be a good one. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe Thursday. There might be some stuff left over from these Rooney comments that I could get to in tomorrow's video, but we'll see. We'll definitely see. That's it, though, for today's show. Appreciate everyone for stopping through, man. Chopping it up. Let me know your takes. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll be back 6 o'clock tomorrow, 6 o'clock Thursday. Same thing, same deal. Talking Steelers, trying to figure out a way to get things right. Try to fix our problems. Stay chilling. Again, peace out. Here we go, Steelers.